This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
From a team that we said might be one draft away from the Super Bowl to a team that pretty much thought they were right there last year, Brian, the Indianapolis Colts traded their first round pick for Sauce Gardner in the middle of last year. They went all in. I was saying at the time, I applaud the move because you got to make a decision at some point. Might have been a little bit premature for the Colts. They don't pick until number 47 this year. I think they're going to do.
I was thinking of that actually funny enough this evening, Conor, when we were looking at the notes for this, the fact that you proclaimed it as a good move at the time for the Colts, the fact that it was such an open season, the AFC looked like it was there for them. But for me, at the time, it looked like they were already starting to slip off. I know they had that initial victory that weekend when he did play. Sauce Gardner played the game in Berlin, which Shane was at. He came through an overtime seesaw, ding-dong type of game with the Falcons, but it tailed off after that, and Daniel Jones was not playing very well. I think they need to give Daniel Jones another weapon, Conor, and the first-round pick is gone, but like as Kieran's alluded to even in last week's coverage, there's numerous wide receivers in this draft. Pittman's been traded to the Steelers. Okay, so they brought back Pierce, but Downs hasn't really developed after his first year. I think they're a little bit light there. They got great play out at the tight end last year, and we've got a stellar running back in Jonathan Taylor. I just think now they look like they need another weapon for Daniel Jones. If they've gone in on Daniel Jones again. This man is a master for getting paid, or his agent's a master for getting paid. But look, they've basically put all the eggs in one basket. They need to put players around them. I think they're a little bit short if they're going to be challenging this division next year. They're also, linebacker seems to be another one this year for some reason. We spoke about it already on this show. We spoke about it last week. Linebacker seems to be a position of need for a lot of teams. They've traded away Franklin, their linebacker, to the Packers during that free agency scramble week. It was a trade deal as opposed to free agency pickup, so it looks like a little bit light there. But for me, it's they need to give Daniel Jones another weapon. It's a wide receiver in the second round. And as Kieran said last week, there seems to be plenty of them to go around.
A lot of teams, Kieran, in the linebacker market, that seems to be the fashionable position in this year's draft. And, if the reports that we're getting are accurate, there are players there to be had.
Yeah, it is a really strong linebacker crew. Highlighted in the combine, I think there was, we saw Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles and all those guys. They'll be gone by the time the Colts pick. But again, there's depth in this position. They're picking at 47. David Bailey's going to be gone. Like I said, Reese and Styles are gone. A couple of names to look out for. Josiah Trotter. Remember Jeremiah Trotter? Well, his kid is out there playing football right now. 6'2" out of Missouri. Just a huge guy. 84 tackles last year. 2 sacks, 13 tackles for loss. Look out for him. He's definitely going to be around in the second round. And Jake Golday out of Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati. 6'4", 240. This guy, 105 tackles last year, just whizzing all around the field, just an absolute monster. 6 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. So these are guys that are a little bit further down the line, not as heralded as the top 4 or 5 dudes that we're seeing in the combine, and that are getting all the press on the network. But it's got to be. You lose Zaire Franklin, and you've already lost Braden Smith, but we touched on that already. But with Jones, that massive contract for Pierce, but I agree with Brian. I think they're going to need more weapons too. We saw them come out like gangbusters last year, and it just went south real quick. They went 1-8 down the stretch. I was there in Jacksonville when they just capitulated. I know Jones went out injured, but there was nothing. It was a lifeless performance. There was nothing there. So I like O-line, obviously. Every team needs O-line. Every team is going to need edge. But wide receiver, we talked about it already. We heard from with Kieran's chat with Jordan Reed, Casey's Concepcion of A&M. I've talked about Chris Brazell as well last week, 6'4" out of Tennessee.
Are you on commission for dropping KC Concepcion's name in every single draft preview you see? There seems to be a home everywhere for KC.
It's smooth. Oh, he's a dude. He's a real dude. Oh, he's a great player. Him and Brazell. See, the thing is, right now with the draft with the wide receivers, there's a huge amount of dudes that are 5'11", 6 foot. Chris Brazell out of Tennessee, 6'4". You want them out jumping these 5'11" safeties and corners. And I think Brazell is going to have a real good market in the draft. Omar Cooper, if you remember him from the Indiana Penn State game when he jumped about 12 feet in the air and snagged that touchdown right at the end, he's going to be there probably in the second round too. So there's going to be some good picks out there for the Colts. Losing Pittman is a blow. Is Jones going to be healthy the whole season? That's the other question, but we're not going to know that right now. But linebacker, O-line, definitely wide receiver. Add in that Pittman loss. But 7 picks they have. They're going to have to really work and keep this kind of train on the track because they flattered to the Steve last season. It ended really poorly. Well, let's see how Jones is when he comes back, and let's see how the rest of this team gels around him.
Shane, to Kieran's point, for a team that were flying it at one point of last season, we are identifying, and a lot of areas have been identified now as areas of need, and they don't have a huge amount of draft picks to get it done here.
No, I think they only have 7 draft picks now after getting 2 compensatory picks. I mean, it's not a big haul they're coming in with here as well. And even in free agency, they had to put so much capital into the Daniel Jones contract that kind of ties them up in terms of what else they can do. I don't know where we've heard that story before, but it seems like that's just the way that this Jones contract is sort of put the way they can build his roster. And look, we're going to sit back here, and I think in the moment we always look back at this Sauce Gardner trade as being a sort of, all in, put in all the chips moment to try and push for something. And when everything collapsed, now where are the pieces to pick it up? And they don't have the first round pick to try and get somewhere that they need to go. And it's funny enough, like most of the analysis coming in here about the Colts to sort of say, hey, they need an edge, linebacker, wide receiver to try and cover off some of the trades they've made. But I think offensive line is an area that they need work on. What was one of the biggest sort of comebacks that we saw? And I saw this in Berlin as well. The difference between how Jonathan Taylor plays in the first half of the season versus the second half, because that was just a big shift in terms of how the Colts played. It wasn't just Daniel Jones getting injured. Offensive line sort of got tired, got injured, and got worked out as well, because in the first half they were really good at sort of pushing forward and not only creating space but actually bringing the D-line back is sort of from contact, and that sort of degraded over the course of the season. I don't know where that comes back in unless you invest in and try to get a sort of a youthful, high level pick in the offensive line to try and rekindle that, because protecting Daniel Jones and giving Jonathan Taylor as much space to run as possible is the key to this team. Whatever, like they don't do anything on defense unless they keep that ball running, unless they keep the quarterback slinging it. And I know, yes, he probably needs a weapon to work with, but that's something that you could probably get and coach in the 4th round, or maybe even look elsewhere in free agency. I definitely think they should be looking higher up their draft capital. And again, they're not picking until the 50s in terms of getting offensive linemen. That said, Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh as linebacker, there's a very deep linebacker class. It definitely seems like somebody who might fit into that system as well, especially after trading Zaire Franklin out the door. That's probably a key need here. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really struggling to try and figure out what these Colts are going forward. I don't know what the draft, even by the time we finish, is going to tell me. And I don't see them gung-ho to try and move up the order here to try and get a first round or an early second round pick, because they've already expended so much capital and they haven't got a huge amount of money to work with. And the free agency has left them with Pittman and Franklin and Braden Smith going out the door. It's a tricky transitional phase here. The coach is going to have to do a lot with those day 2, day 3 picks. They're going to really have to get their research done on that area, particularly when it comes to defensive players, because defensive talent, even if they're building a sort of no-name defense, they need to have consistency. They need to have somebody with a good injury record and try to build up solidity and strength there. But that said, as much as people are coming back here and saying that linebacker and D-end is where they should be using their second round pick, I think there's some wisdom in using and trying to get a good offensive lineman here, because that offense does not work unless Jonathan Taylor is given as much room as he possibly can get.
Brian, a quick point on Indy before we go to Nashville.
Yeah, it's just a linebacker episode, Connor, because It's interesting that Kieran calls out Jake Galladay because he's actually something that's been highly touted to the Jags in the linebacker position. And we're talking about two teams in the division that neither of them have their first round pick, but yet both of them are after linebackers. I wonder, are we looking at a situation where, next year we could be looking at if only the Colts had got the linebacker in which the Jags got, or it goes the other way, are the Jags going to be looking at those three picks in the third round to get ahead of the Colts to get the linebacker ultimately that they want, knowing that the Colts, who are in the division, might even take that particular player?